I have to say that before I say anything else, Mary used the term very heartened close to the end of her contribution there, and I am very heartened by what I've seen here today, and I must compliment Isfeja Lynn and the Community Platform for this initiative, which offers, I would say, a great deal of potential. But I'm in the unpleasant position, speaking about cortisone levels or whatever levels they are, originally we had intended to have a conference on Palestine this morning, and I wasn't going to be able to attend, and that's been postponed. But as a consequence of its postponement, I agreed to meet one of our public service committees at about 1 o'clock or a little afterwards to explain to them why their pay was cut by 7% on the 3rd of February, and that there isn't very much evidence that I've done a whole lot about it since. So that would account for my raised cortisone level. So I apologise, because I'm very sorry I'm not going to be able to be here for the more important discussion this morning, which is not so much about the content of this as about how to take it from where we are here at this particular minute in time. I think that I should start as my point of departure, because we have to start from here, wherever we're going, at the nature of the crisis that is unfolding around us. And I think it's been correctly captured, by the way, in Mary's presentation, and in the earlier presentation as well by Richard, in that we are living through what is in effect parallel to a tsunami. And one thing that we can be certain of, actually certain of, is that whenever humanity emerges the other end of it, things will not be the same as they were before. This will profoundly change things very fundamentally, and has the potential, I think, to change the direction of human development and human history. Not necessarily for the good, but whether and that's down to the balance of forces in society, and all that remains of that. But one or two things about the crisis as it applies particularly here in this country, about the alternatives as they're presenting. I don't think that it does our cause on the broad left, if I could be excused for using that term, in the broadest sense of the word, very much good to be presenting the opinion that the alternatives are easy, and that there is some kind of painless, simple, risk-free solution that a government which wasn't hitched to the developers and others of that ilk could embark upon. There isn't. And I don't think, incidentally either, that it does our cause very much good to be criticising them for their failure to promote alternative policies on the basis that they are corrupt, or that they are hitched to developers, or whatever else. Actually, at the risk of ostracising myself completely in this gathering, I have to say that in my experience of 35 years of trade union activity, and activity on the broad left of one kind or another, I would actually say that the great majority of people I have met in all parties in public life are people who are predominantly motivated by a conception of the interests of the public good, rather than people who are in it to enhance themselves. There are those who are of that ilk, but I don't believe they're in the majority. And I believe the critical failure, the critical deficiency in approaching it from that populist perspective is that it misses the point. And it's very interesting that in Mary's presentation here today, which addresses the point, she never once adverted in commentary or otherwise to that populist language that we tend to use. Like, let's take, for example, the situation regarding the public finances, an enormously critical situation. What would a centre-left government do? What would a social democratic government do in this situation? It actually doesn't have too many alternatives from the broad course of the plan that has been approved by the EU Commission. It has some. It would have some, but not an enormous amount. It is a horrendous prospect from a social democratic or a socialist perspective to think in terms of the amount of money that plan envisages being taken out of the economy and the consequences for working people and people who depend on public services and the less well-off in our society of the evolution of that plan. It is an enormous prospect, a horrendous prospect, from the point of view of all those of us who approach things from a different perspective. But if we were there, the amount of scope we would have would be limited by reason of what has gone before. Now, we could say that if we had been there, what has gone before wouldn't have happened, and that would be true. But nonetheless, we would start from where we are and not from where we would wish to be. And the reason why they wouldn't have that much scope is because the crisis in the public finances of an extraordinary deficit, an extraordinary current deficit, against the background of a not too bad position on debt-GDP ratio, is completely distorted by reason of the crisis in our banking system. You could do other things in the context of a good debt-GDP ratio were it not for that particular problem. And you could well say, and you would be right, that a left-of-centre government would not find itself in the space that by reason of a decision in September made overnight to offer a credit guarantee to all of the banks, including those who subsequently turned out to be little more than money clubs for the developers, that they're now caught in the situation that they all have to be shored up, because the consequences of letting any one of them down is enormous. I heard the figure, for example, uttered by the Taoiseach in a brief clip on RTE speaking in the Dáil, the figure of 60 to 65 billion euro as representing the deposits alone of the Anglo-Irish banks, just one bank, just deposits alone, not bonds, nothing else. If that figure is correct, you can just visualise the scale of the task that any government is confronted with.